So there's been some changes in the IBF rankings, and Derek Chisora has found himself to be the mandatory after beating Otto Wallin and Joe Joyce in recent fights. He now has the opportunity because he is the number one contender for the IBF. The number one spot is not there, it's vacant, but the number two person is Derek Chisora, and the IBF have seemed to have made him the mandatory. So I saw this article on Bad Left Hook, a reputable site that I advise people to go to if they want to see boxing news for themselves. And it says here, I just want that shot. Derek Chisora hopes to seize opportunity to fight Daniel Dubois. Now that Derek Chisora has formally been named as mandatory title challenger for Daniel Dubois' IBF heavyweight title, Chisora admits to Sky Sports that he really is hoping to nail that fight down for what he admits will be the last fight of his career. Chisora has made quite a career for himself despite never having become a world champion. But this opportunity to make that dream a reality at the very tail end of his career is too much and too tempting to let pass by. We'll have to see what happens, but I want that shot. Since the IBF made me mandatory for it, I want it. There's no two ways about it. I want it badly. I want to fight Daniel. It's a good story because behind the whole thing, he is trained by my old trainer. It's a very exciting fight, and I just want that shot now. At age 41, Chisora makes it known that he'll be retiring at the end of this year no matter what happens, whether he becomes champion or even manages to get the Dubois fight at all, which he's willing to wait for. For now, he'll just have to wait and see whether a unification fight materializes between Dubois and Usyk, who has his own mandatory to satisfy. So, this is showing that Derek Chisora hasn't retired, even though he announced he didn't really announce. He did make suggestions in the ring after the fight with Otto Wallin that he was going to retire. But obviously, with the IBF making him mandatory, it's obviously lit the fire again in his belly. And he's like, I want to fight for the title. Because even though I'm sure Derek Chisora is a millionaire himself, even though he is that, he has never won a title. The only time I remember him fighting for a title was when he got beaten by Vitaly Klitschko. So, with that being said, he wants his title shot again. And it looks like he's got the opportunity by making himself mandatory by beating them guys that were in the 1 and 2 spots for the IBF. Now, Eddie Hearn is doubtful that he will get that fight, citing that Dubois has other fish to fry, better fights that he can have. But the IBF have pulled out their mandatory and they've named it as Derek Chisora. And with that being the case, the IBF don't usually ramp. They're on this thing. They're like, you know what? You got to fight your mandatory. And if you don't fight your mandatory, you're liable to get stripped. And they don't care about unifications either, from what I remember of the IBF in its recent history. But Eddie Hearn's like, I don't see him fighting for the world title next anyway. But who knows? Good luck to him. This is what Eddie Hearn's saying about having his doubts about Derek Chisora fighting Daniel Dubois for the IBF heavyweight title next. But if he does get that fight, good luck to him for real, because he's going to get another couple millions in his bank. And if it happens at Wembley, I can see it more being in the arena, more so than being in the stadium, 90,000. It's more so going to be in the arena, which is like 12,500, which will accommodate that. And it would sell out, to be fair. I think Derek Chisora could actually fight in the big stadium. For me, just pull it in the arena, sell it out, and have people salivating. Then you have more people watching it on TV, and you have a big showcase. I can see this kind of happening. I can see it happening because at the end of the day, it might work out that Usyk defends his title against Joseph Parker and then Daniel Dubois defends his title against Derek Chisora. Because for me, he's supposed to beat Chisora. There should be no problems with him beating Chisora. And it will be Chisora's last hurrah, last big payday. And then he can sail off into the sunset because, to be fair, he's been threatening to retire for about 5 years now. He's been threatening to retire from before the pandemic. Let's have it right. I mean, when he knocked out David Price in 4 rounds, he talked about retiring at that point there. And that never happened. And that was 2019. And here we are now talking about him fighting for the title. Okay, we'll see. Let's see what happens, because you know boxing's a funny old game. But he is #1 challenger, and he's been named mandatory by the IBF officially. So that should push that fight forward. We'll see what happens going forward anyway. I'll be keeping an eye on this situation, and I will see you guys in the next video.